Today, we will look at a Condi Mechanist build for Guild Wars 2 open world content that offers a lot of boons with a very high uptime, including Alacrity and Quickness. This build will also provide very high sustain and damage, which will enable you to handle most open world content on your own without the need for help from other players. For the gear, we are using a full set of Ritualist armor with Firebrand runes, Ritualist mace and pistol with sigils of rage and clarity, and a full set of celestial trinkets. And I also have a tier 10 core equipped in my Jadebot, so that adds a little bit of vitality. I made guides that explained how to craft Ritualist gear and how to craft Jadebot cores along with other modules. You will find the links for them in the comments and description if you want to check them out. If you can't craft Ritualist gear or it was too expensive, you can buy rare Ritualist armor from the trading post, and for the weapons, you can buy rare banded weapons which are stat selectable and choose Celestial, because as of right now, you cannot select Ritualist as a selectable stat yet. I tested the build multiple times using rare gear to make sure it will work, and it did just fine. And in fact, the footage that you will see at the end of the video is all recorded using rare gear, which means that if you had exotic or ascended gear, you will even do better. The food we are using is koi cake, and the utility crystal is the master tuning crystal. You can buy the potent crystal instead, which will last an hour and is more cost efficient, or if that was too expensive, you can buy the Corsair tuning crystals instead. The difference in damage was not that big. For the traits, we are using Firearms 113, Alchemy 223, and Mechanist 222. For the utility skills, we are using Elixir H as our heal, Overclock Signet for the elite, and then Barrier Signet, Elixir B, and Elixir U for the rest of the utility skills. If you found yourself struggling with conditions, you can replace Elixir B and use Elixir C instead. Now let's understand how the build works. Mechanist trait line is where we get most of our boons. The Grandmaster trait will give Alacrity when you or your mech apply barrier, and you can do that with your mace auto attack, barrier signet, and your mech skills F3 barrier burst. And from the same Grandmaster trait, your mech will apply barrier every 3 seconds. This will provide a very decent amount of barrier all the time and maintain alacrity during the entire fight. As for the rest of the boons, barrier burst will also apply might and fury. Crisis zone, which is your F2, will apply alacrity, ages, protection, and stability. Mace 2 will apply vigor and regeneration. Elixir H will apply more regeneration with protection and swiftness. And Elixir B will apply swiftness, fury, resolution, and might. You will also get more might constantly from your mech with your adapt trait in the Mechanist trait line. And as for the quickness, this will come from Elixir U, which also will provide vigor and stability, and from the 2 sigils we are using on our weapons, which will provide quickness in combat. All of that combined will enable you to have a lot of boons for a very high duration and uptime during the entire fight, even if it was a long fight against a hard enemy. Sustain will come from the barrier, protection, and the iron blooded trait, which will reduce the damage significantly because of the amount of boons you will have. We have another trait in the Mechanist line which will make regeneration heal for more, and this is a boon you will have most of the time. Compounding chemicals in the alchemy line will heal us every time we apply boons, and with this build, you will be getting constant heals from this trait. Damage will come from your weapon skills and from your mech. You will be constantly applying confusion and burning on your enemies, and the firearms line will apply some bleeding, and it will also increase the amount of damage and duration we do with our conditions. For the cleanses, we have the mech skill Crisis Zone, and the constant barrier will also help you deal with the conditions. And as I said, if you needed more cleanses, you can use Elixir C instead of Elixir B. For the stun breaks, we have Crisis Zone and Elixir U, and for the CCs, we have Mace 3 for the stun, along with Pistol 5 and F1 skill on the mech, which will apply Immobilize, Cripple, and Weakness, which also help with Breaking Bar. Now let's understand how to use the build in action. Once we start the fight, use F1 F2 and F3 in that order, then use all of your utility skills except your elite. This will provide a lot of boons and barrier, which will continue throughout the entire fight. After that, use your weapons for the damage and then repeat those steps for whatever will come off cooldown. You will save your elite signet only when your mech dies. I tested the build while using the signet for the damage and without, and it was better to just save the signet for the passive use and to bring your mech back to life if it ever died. Be careful when using F3 because it has a long casting time and can get interrupted, so don't use other mech skills at the same time with it. Mace 3 also counts as a mech skill because of this trait. Also keep in mind that when you use your skill Mace 3, you won't be able to use the rest of the mech skills for about 2 seconds. I will now leave you with some footage for the build, and this will be using the rare gear I mentioned at the beginning just to show you that the build can still work using it. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you next guide.